Hey there, Internet. Jasmine and Brandon here with some comic book reviews for you.
This week we got Defenders, Heart, and Swamp Thing, and a couple others, so
Stick around.
Steven here with some comic book reviews. Starting off is Heart number 2, which is actually written by Blair Butler from G4 fame. And this is really good. Like, it's about boxing, and I couldn't care less about boxing, but I really enjoyed it. And I mean, a little cliche, but Heart has heart. Like, the characters you could actually connect with, you really enjoy, you want to see them progress, and their flaws are ones where you're like, no, don't do it. You actually care about what they're making mistakes with, where you're just like, oh no, that's not a good idea. I really, really enjoyed this. I'm going to highly recommend it so far that I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Next up is TMNT, the micro series of Raphael. Oh my goodness. This was so good. If you have been reading the TMNT series up to this point, you know that Raphael was missing from them and he's just getting back. This is addressing some of the stuff of him coping with the family issue, which I really like how they took a separate comic to address that because it is such a big deal. Him having lived for so long, not knowing who he was, not knowing his family, knowing nothing about himself, and all of a sudden he's in this very supportive family collectivist group, and it's him coping with that, like being happy he's in this situation, but very different than what he's used to. And then also they do a perfect job of really tying it with the story, addressing where it's going to progress. I loved it. If you've been reading so far, you have to pick up this one because it adds so much. And then on the last page, you're like, oh snap, to the 10th degree. It was so good. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey nerds, Cubby here with my comic reviews this week. Now my first book is a book I've been really excited for, Defenders #1 by Matt Fraction and Terry Dodson. Holy crap, this book blew me out of the water, like most books that these guys do separately, but combined, it's just an amazing book. Doctor Strange, it opens up with him getting some booty. You know what, that's never a bad thing. Halfway through the book, Iron Fist is getting some booty. That's awesome. I love when cool comic book guys are getting awesome chicks. Yeah, it's fake or whatever, but you know, you can have hope. Have hope, maybe I can do that too. Anyways, back to the story. It was actually really, really awesome. It deals with a lot of stuff that happened from Fear itself. The Hulk's, the person that was, the entity that was taking him over, it kind of is on the loose, and they have to take it down. Hulk can't help them, so they have Red She-Hulk come in to replace him because he was an original Defender. And it's actually really awesome. Betty Ross is a really cool character, and they do a really good job with her as Red She-Hulk. She has a different personality. She's more of an in-your-face kind of chick instead of just Betty Ross. Artwork, amazing. Always going to be when Terry Dodson's on a book, and it definitely did not disappoint this time. So overall, I got to give this book 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. All right, guys, my second book this week is Last of the Greats, #3. And this book took a little turn, not for the bad. It was actually still really good. I've been enjoying this book so far, and it was fairly interesting to see kind of what's going on. If you've read it already, you know that this person who is the last of the greats has actually absorbed all of his other brothers and sisters, so they're all one person. And something happens at the end. There's some secrets revealed about the human guy that's helping him out. And it's pretty interesting. I want to see where it's going now. It didn't give too much else. There wasn't anything else. It was just this big, bomb, and that was it. So the story was a little weak. Art is still pretty good. So I'm going to give this book 3.5 Nerd Skulls. All right, guys, my final book this week wasn't really, it was a book, but it wasn't really a comic book. It was the Super Dino coloring book. And I kind of had to jump on this. I love adorable things and dinosaurs, and this was exactly that. And it kind of sucked. We get our image previews online, and I couldn't draw on it because it looked really fun, and I wanted to draw all over this thing. It's just a traditional coloring book, but it has the awesome art of Jason Howard, who is one of the coolest artists, and he does a really good, all ages friendly art style. If you ever read Astounding Wolfman, you know that's a very adult book. Super Dino is the complete opposite of that. Everyone's really cute. These dinosaurs look ferocious and menacing, but at the same time, pretty damn adorable. So I'm going to give this, out of sheer cute factor, 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey there, nerds. Jasmine here with my comic book reviews for the week. First up is X Club #1. It's a part of the Regenesis title, which, if you didn't know, is basically X-Men from Utopia leaving and going back to the school, led by Wolverine. So you have kids being kids again, you have kids fighting in wars. So it's very cool to see them clash and see all the other things that are going on in the Marvel Universe or that are about to go on. So be sure to be checking it out. X Club is a pretty cool book. It pretty much just opens with the X-Men at a PR event, the classic Scott that he is now, sort of pompous But it's very funny. On the cover page, when you open every Marvel book, there's like a little recap. And in big letters, it just says, "We do science," because it's the science team. And it's so funny. The art in this book's cool. And the writing is just funny because you just have members of the X Club sort of arguing with each other because they're so smart that they don't like humans so much, but they have to pretend to like humans. And then you have Atlanteans come in and craziness ensues. So I would actually recommend reading it if you are, one, an X-Men fan, or two, you just want to know what's going on in this huge story that's about to start happening. It's just really funny to me. I found it very entertaining, not serious, but it was very entertaining. So I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Up next is The Strange Talent of Luther Strode, number 3. I'm just going to start by saying that this is my favorite Image book. Outside of like Little Depressed Boy, they're just neck and neck right now. I really love this book because you have this nerdy kid who gets these really amazing powers to just be really strong and have this physical prowess, and he wants to use it to help people, but he has no one to help. There's a page where he is pretty much trying to be Batman. He says, "I am vengeance and I am the night," and I am really bored, because he really was. I really enjoyed this issue because you start to get more of a backstory, how Luther's mom was beat by his dad and how his girlfriend seems to be going through the same thing at home where she's being abused. And there's a lot of character development in this issue, and it was very emotional and very nice, and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. If you're not reading this book, you really need to start and get caught up.
What's up, nerds? Brandon here with some comic reviews for you. First off, I got Swamp Thing, number 4. Easily one of my favorite titles coming out of the new 52, and this one is really cool. Gives you a lot more backstory on what Scott Snyder's really trying to do with the Swamp Thing mythos and the whole green and the red, the rot, everything going on with that. And I really like where this is going. I'm liking what I'm seeing. You definitely get some character development going on with what the future of this storyline is going to hold. I can't wait to see what direction this goes in. I'm giving it 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls. Next up, I have Hack Slash number 10. I've always enjoyed this book. I know I've said it before on here. And yeah, it's just an unnecessarily violent book full of monsters and gore and awesome. This issue was just good as everything else I've read. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
I had the honor of reading issue 8 of Clive Barker's Hellraiser. And I gotta be honest, I haven't read any of the prior books. I haven't been involved in the series, but I am definitely intrigued by this issue alone. I am a classic fan of Hellraiser and most of Clive Barker's worlds, but Hellraiser has always been one of my favorites. I love the Cenobites, I love Pinhead. When I was a kid, I wanted to marry Pinhead and have all the pain that he comes with it. And all that pain and that gore is translated beautifully in the art of this book. So I can't wait to see what has been in past issues and what's coming in future issues, because the art alone is just totally worth this price of this book. The book is written by Clive Barker, and it looks like in the series, Pinhead is trying to get out of his role as the leader of the Cenobites and get out of hell or wherever he is. But to do that, he needs to recruit a replacement. So he's got that replacement in this book, and so begins the switch. It's very, very interesting. There's some references to the toy maker, which I like. Again, the art alone is just great if you are into the Hellraiser mythos and world of pain and gore. Definitely want to check this book out if you are a Hellraiser fan. Because this being the middle of a series and so intriguing, I'm definitely going to give this book 5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
Hey guys, Haley here. My comic of the week is Villains for Hire number 1. It was a page turner, I have to say. We weren't sure around, like, everybody was kind of weary to read it. We weren't sure what to expect, but I really, really enjoyed it. There's a lot of twists in it. It's a really cool story because I like antagonistic characters as the protagonist. That's really what you get. And it's interesting because Purple Man has hired all these villains to do this job, and then there's another set of villain opposing them, trying to get the exact same thing. So there's a lot of conflict, villain versus villain. It's really, really interesting. I'll give it 4.5 out of 5 Nerd Skulls.
All right, that's going to do it for all our reviews this week. But until next week, be sure to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as nerdlocker.com for all your nerdy news. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jasmine.
And we'll see you next week for even more comic book reviews.